Charles Thompson was a man of vision. As the CEO of Thompson Innovations, a tech company, he had grown from a small startup into a billion-dollar corporation. He believed that fostering a strong, positive work culture was just as important as driving profits. But in recent months, whispers had reached him about a growing dissatisfaction among employees. Though he received glowing reports from his leadership team, something felt off. Charles suspected the culture had deteriorated without his noticing. Instead of relying on surveys, HR reports, or managers' feedback, Charles decided to take a bold, unconventional step. He would go undercover within his own company. Disguised as Tom, a janitor, he would work for several weeks in the company's headquarters to witness firsthand how employees truly behaved when they didn't know the CEO was watching. He took a leave of absence under the pretense of a sabbatical and entered his own company as a part-time janitor, a role so low-key that he was almost invisible to the executives who passed him in the halls. With his uniform, a janitorial cart, and a modest salary, he began his journey into the heart of his company's culture. From the beginning, Charles was struck by how differently employees treated him in his new role. The first few days were filled with little but polite indifference from most employees. Some barely acknowledged him, treating him as if he were part of the scenery. But others surprised him in pleasant ways. On his second day, for instance, a young developer, Jake, greeted him with a friendly smile and struck up a conversation. Jake had no idea who Charles really was, but their chats became regular, and Charles learned about Jake's frustrations with upper management and the lack of mentorship in the company. During his breaks, Charles quietly observed employee interactions in the office communal areas. It didn't take long for him to witness acts of kindness, such as employees helping each other out with tough tasks, sharing their lunches, or celebrating small achievements. However, not all was well. One of the more shocking incidents occurred in the sales department, led by Linda, the department's manager. Linda had a reputation as a top performer, praised for her ability to close big deals, but Charles witnessed firsthand the toxic undercurrent she brought to the team. Linda routinely berated her staff for minor mistakes, humiliating them in front of their peers. Charles was horrified one day when Linda publicly reprimanded a young sales associate, Karen, who had made a small error on a client call. Karen had been working tirelessly, often staying late to make up for the team's understaffing, but Linda showed no sympathy. In front of the entire team, she called Karen useless and told her to get it together or get out. Charles saw Karen's face flush with embarrassment as she held back tears. Worse, her colleagues remained silent, likely out of fear of becoming Linda's next target. Charles watched as the toxic behavior escalated in the coming days. Linda's management style seemed to rely on intimidation and fear. She pressured her team to hit unattainable goals, and when they fell short, she used them as scapegoats to cover her own mistakes. The atmosphere in the sales department was tense, and morale was at an all-time low. Through his conversations with other janitors and lower-level staff, Charles also learned about various inequities within the company. The janitorial staff, for example, worked long hours for minimal pay and received little respect from the rest of the workforce. They had no benefits, and their concerns about broken equipment or poor working conditions were largely ignored by management. This revelation deeply troubled Charles, as it ran counter to the inclusive culture he had always tried to foster. The final straw came one afternoon when Charles overheard Linda talking with another manager about how she planned to push Jake, the friendly developer Charles had bonded with, out of the company. Jake had raised concerns in a team meeting about the unrealistic deadlines the tech department was facing. Linda, who had little patience for dissent, decided Jake was a problem employee and made it her mission to make his life miserable until he quit. Charles felt a wave of anger wash over him. This wasn't leadership, it was bullying, and it had no place in his company. After 3 weeks undercover, Charles knew it was time to reveal himself. He called a company-wide meeting with the janitorial staff, tech department, and sales team all present. The employees had no idea what the meeting was about, and Charles stood before them still dressed in his janitor's uniform. "I've been working alongside many of you for the past few weeks," Charles began. There were gasps from the audience as they realized who he was. "I've seen the best of what this company has to offer, but I've also seen some things that deeply concern me." Charles spoke at length about the acts of kindness he had witnessed, praising those who treated their colleagues with respect and helped foster a positive environment. But he didn't shy away from addressing the toxic behavior he had seen, particularly in the sales department. Without naming names, he recounted the incidents of bullying and intimidation he had observed, and he made it clear that this behavior would no longer be tolerated. "Effective immediately, we are making major changes," Charles announced. "We will be holding our leadership accountable. Those who have fostered toxic environments will either change, as they will no longer have a place at Thomson Innovations. We are restructuring our leadership training programs to focus on empathy, inclusivity, and respect." Charles also announced new initiatives aimed at improving the work-life balance of his employees, increasing support for professional development, and addressing pay inequities among the lower-wage staff like janitors. Every employee, no matter their role, would be treated with dignity and fairness. Linda, who was in the audience, sat pale and silent. She knew her time in the company was over. Over the next several months, the company underwent a significant transformation. Toxic managers were replaced, and new leadership programs were put in place. Employees were given more opportunities to provide feedback, and Charles made a point of meeting regularly with workers from all levels of the company to ensure the culture was improving. The changes were slow but steady. Jake was promoted to lead a new mentorship initiative for junior developers, while Karen found herself thriving under a new manager who valued her contributions. The janitorial staff, too, saw improvements in their working conditions and were finally given the respect they deserved. Charles's undercover mission had been risky, but it had paid off. The experience had opened his eyes to the realities of his company's culture and had given him the tools to create real, lasting change. Thomson Innovations emerged stronger, more inclusive, and more respectful than ever before, thanks to a CEO who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty to uncover the truth. As Thomson Innovations evolved under Charles's leadership, the changes created a ripple effect. The company became a symbol of transformation, attracting talent from all over the industry. Employees felt valued, respected, and empowered to share their ideas without fear of retribution. Productivity surged as teams worked more cohesively, and innovation thrived in an environment where collaboration was celebrated. Charles reflected on his journey, how going undercover had changed not only his company, but also himself. He realized that leadership wasn't just about steering a business toward profit, but about ensuring that every person felt their work mattered, regardless of their role. As Thomson Innovations grew, Charles continued to stay grounded. He maintained his connections with employees from all levels, fostering a culture of transparency and accountability. The lessons he learned undercover became the cornerstone of the company's ethos, ensuring that Thomson Innovations remained a place where both innovation and integrity flourished. Charles had turned a potential downfall into a triumph. His bold decision to go undercover was more than just a leadership experiment. It was a declaration that people, not just profits, were at the heart of his company's success. As Charles continued his mission to reshape Thomson Innovations, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place when he addressed the need for ongoing leadership training. He implemented programs to help managers develop emotional intelligence, communication skills, and conflict resolution tactics. Over time, Linda, the manager who once embodied the toxic leadership, embraced the changes and became a model for growth, demonstrating that transformation was possible for anyone willing to learn. By the end of his journey, Charles had cultivated a thriving, inclusive company where every employee felt heard and respected. The workplace had shifted from one of toxicity and division to a collaborative environment that fostered innovation and kindness. The company's success grew exponentially, and Charles knew this wasn't just about profits. It was about the people. His undercover journey had reshaped not only the company's culture, but his own perspective on leadership. Charles's legacy was sealed as a leader who prioritized empathy and integrity, and Thomson Innovations became a beacon of what a healthy, progressive company could achieve. This story has come to an end, but don't forget to subscribe for more daily stories of hope and resilience. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like. See you in the next one.